Hello everyone, my name is Ken Wagner and this is my Pechakucha on making Pechakchas. What we're going to cover is who made the Pechakchas, why they made the Pechakchas, what Pechakchas are good for, and the different ways that I went through to make this Pechakucha. So we're going to start off, where do Pechakchas come from? Pechakchas were created by Astrid Klein and Mark Ditham. They both own KDA, which is Klein Ditham Architecture, in Tokyo, Japan. They met at the Royal College of Art in London. The atmosphere of RCA, the Royal College of Art, helped to nurture their creativity. They were allowed to explore their own ideas and inspirations, and as they grew creatively, they recognized that they would be able to work well together. Today, across the entire world, they are asked to speak and teach about architecture and design. Miss Astrid Klein was born in Italy to German parents. She attended her first schooling in France, finished her higher education in Britain, and now works in Japan. All that traveling in her early years instilled a hunger for the exotic at an early age, and after graduation, she moved to Tokyo. Mr. Mark Ditham always had a fascination with building the new, even from an early age. In the 80s, when Mark graduated and earned his master's, he knew that Japan was always the country furthest in the future, so he left to work in Tokyo. Mark and Astrid met a sort of urban energy and willingness to experiment in Tokyo that helped convince them to start KDA. In 2003, KDA was doing well, and Astrid and Mark wanted to be able to give young architects somewhere they could all come together and show their designs. Super Deluxe is a club that Astrid and Mark created for them and their friends to come together and think and drink. One day, in the beginning of February, they conceived the idea of Pechakchas. Pechakchas aren't just good for presenting architecture. They've been made for many different things, including Astrid's 5-year-old daughter and her artwork, and Mark's 69-year-old mother displaying her different wedding cake creations. When creative people gather and they're given a platform to speak about their creations, they usually talk a lot. And this was the reason Pechakchas were invented. The Pechakcha's design is not an elevator pitch, and as in it's not just summed up in less than a minute, but then again it's not a 30 to 45 minute type of presentation either. It's the perfect in-between and can be used in many different situations. Now, we'll go over the different ways that I tried making this Pechakucha. When making your Pechakucha, you need to be mindful that the info for each slide is not going over your 20 seconds. Otherwise, the time for the other slides gets cut short, or you'll start talking faster and you'll skip over important parts. There are multiple ways to measure the time of your slides. Excuse me. The first thing I did was write down my notes. Then I split them into the amount of slides I thought made sense. If this number was above or below 20, then I would start adding and subtracting things. Then I made an empty presentation with 20 slides set for 20 seconds, and I call this the skeleton. The skeleton was created for the sole purpose of playing and watching the time. I put the numbers 1 through 20 in the title spaces of each slide so I would know which slide was being presented. As the presentation displayed, I would present my notes to myself and watch the slides shift. If I wasn't done when the slide switched, I knew I was talking too much, like now. This method proved tedious and took way too much time switching between the Pechakucha and the edits on my notes. So after deciding I needed an easier, more streamlined way, I minimized PowerPoint, took out my phone with the stopwatch app. Timing myself in 20-second intervals was way easier. Now I could switch to editing my notes to fit 20 seconds a slide without switching programs. All I did here was organize my notes into a bulleted list of 20, and then added or reduced the amount of info within each number. If the time on my phone went under 18, I added a little bit more. If it went over 20 seconds, I reduced some information. Proofreading. Once all my slides had enough information, I checked to make sure everything made sense as I read. It wouldn't make sense to tell you the time of how to time each slide, then told you how Astrid and Mark met, then told you when I proofread, and then told you how they were influenced to go to Japan. Without this proofreading step, the times when you add and subtract info can sometimes make your slides sound like lazy scripting, or they can sound rushed. While some may say Pechakchas aren't meant to be perfect, I like to make sure that when I'm presenting anything, I sound professional. That one hiring manager you're seeking to network with could see it. Once all my slides had the right information and the correct amount, I went on the hunt for good pictures. An important part about searching for pictures to use is to write down the citation as you go. I did not do this and had to go back and search all over again, sometimes replacing pictures I had obtained originally just so I could write down a citation. Once you have all the pictures you plan to use for the Pechachka, it's time to place them. Import the pictures into the slides you want. Be sure to have them in the right spaces as an alternative, because the alternative leaves your audience visually confused. You don't want them looking at a picture of a tree and you're talking about a fish, unless the fish can disguise itself as a tree. In that case, don't get a picture where the fish is a tree. After everything is where it should be, go ahead and practice a few times. You won't nail the Pechachka perfectly the first time. It always pays to practice, even if only in your head. If you went to your first Pechachka night without any practice, it may end up as an embarrassing experience for you. After I practice a couple times, I invite my wife over to watch me. Having another human being watch you really changes things, especially if you are prone to stage fright. Luckily, this specific Pechachka isn't in front of a live audience, or else I might have to put on pants instead of gym shorts. Well, Pechachkas can be about anything and can be presented by anyone. They are especially perfect for learning how to present. It may seem daunting at first when trying to organize and shoot your first Pechachka, but in the end it turns out not to be as hard as long as you thought it would be. Thanks again, everybody. These are credits. See you later.